Recently we discussed the difference between polyurethane and nitrocellulose lacquer for guitar finishing. We talked about the effect on the sound, well not the sound, sorry, we talked about the effect on how it'll feel, durability, and also the finishing process. So today we're going to discuss the differences between acrylics and polyurethanes, predominantly in terms of the finishing process, because the overall finish ends up being about the same. As you've probably noticed in my previous guitar painting videos and such, I top coat my acrylics with a catalyzed polyurethane. So the end finish that you get from the two is quite similar. The difference is the application process. So the acrylics, when you spray them, you put them on very lightly. There's very, very little dry time in between. In fact, you can use a heat gun and within a minute you can have a coat ready to recoat depending on the size of your project. For something like a guitar, it's very, very quick. Polyurethane goes on quite differently. You actually create what's called flow. You put considerably more paint on. You achieve coverage within 2 coats typically, rather than say 3, 4, even 5 with the acrylics. You spray it out. It's a little more difficult to get it even. You actually have to, with acrylics, if you're patient, you can typically get an even coat, whereas with polyurethane, you do need to have the proper technique in order to accomplish that. You need to have the right amount of overlap, otherwise you're going to end up with heavier spots and lighter spots because you're spraying it out heavier. Polyurethane also has specific recoat times. It bonds chemically as opposed to mechanically like water-based paint. So your first coat's going to do both. It's going to bond chemically and, well, predominantly mechanically. But after that, the layers will bond chemically to each other with a polyurethane. So they'll kind of melt together a little bit because of the solvents that are in them. So you're going to wait 10 to 15 minutes between coats, and you don't need to do any scuffing in between or anything like that. And the same will go for your clear coat. With the acrylic, the water-based paint that I use, it's going to bond mechanically. So you don't really have a specific recoat time. You just wait for the previous coat to dry, or you help it dry with a little bit of air or heat, and then you can recoat over it after that. So I find that the acrylics are a little bit faster, a little bit easier to spray out evenly. Not that it's really difficult with the urethane, but it's quite easy with the acrylic. And in the end, I use the same clear coat for both, so really I don't end up with much of a difference there. One big difference between the two that will be of interest to some of you is the fact that there are no solvents really in the water-based stuff. So it's much safer for you. It's much better for your lungs. You don't have to worry about, you should still wear a respirator. There's a lot of junk in it that you can breathe in, so you should be doing that. But after spraying polyurethane, I don't enter the room that I was doing it in, or the area that I was doing it in, for several hours, typically, if I can. Particularly since I don't have cross ventilation really. With the acrylics, that's not really an issue. You can barely smell it. There's not a whole lot of harmful solvent in it. VOC content is basically nothing. So there is a safety difference. However, if you're putting on the acrylics and then top coating with the urethane, you're still going to need all the safety equipment you would need for a urethane finish regardless, because that catalyzed clear coat is the worst part. So keep that in mind. For airbrushing, if you're doing anything like that, you'll notice a big difference in the smell. The smell is always a good indicator of whether or not something has a lot of solvent in it that's bad for you. So you'll notice if you're airbrushing urethanes, it's going to smell quite strongly. It might make you lightheaded, things like that if you don't have the proper safety equipment. Whereas with the acrylics, you'll smell something, but it's not going to be a big issue. Like I said, I definitely recommend that you wear a respirator whenever you're spraying something, but if you don't have one, for example, it's not going to be the end of the world with the acrylics, whereas when you're spraying urethane, it will be. I hope that helps for anybody who's kind of considering this decision. Like I said in one of my previous videos, if you're a beginner, I would go with the acrylic. It's a little bit easier to work with, less can go wrong. It also tends to be available, as far as I've seen, in smaller quantities and a little less expensive. But It's entirely up to you. If you have any questions about the application for either one, let me know. And good luck with your projects. Thanks for watching.